every job application that you fill is a trigger for anxiety, and I'm not joking at all. With our solution, we are only saying that, hey, hire a virtual assistant who will apply to jobs on your behalf.
How difficult was it for getting that first seed round fund? If you remember 1997, Microsoft paid amount to Apple so that they can survive.
If you're a founder, you should find the right leads of people who will introduce to me.
Can you justify the price of $200 per month to even $1,000 a month? So दोस्तों, today we have founders of Scale.jobs. They are running their third startup. इन्होंने startup run किया in India as well as in the US. They have gotten funding recently from Atlanta, and we will learn what it takes to build a startup. Plus, I have asked them so many tough questions. I have grilled them regarding their business model, how they measure success, and how they are convincing their customers that the price they are charging is not expensive, it's the right amount. Let's learn a lot about how they see venture capital world in US different from India. How does the startup world work in this video? First half is about starting up, and second half about grilling them with the hard questions.
Hi, I'm Leela, co-founder of Scale.jobs. And yeah, we are trying to help you land jobs faster and make your job search experience much more easier than what it is right now.
And
Right. Hi, myself Balaji. I'm the technical co-founder at Scale.jobs. So we're cooking up really interesting stuff to make you land in a job much faster. Be it customized resumes, be it one-click cover letters, or even things for you to help network much faster. So whatever you have in terms of struggles for your job search, we got you covered.
And you defined yesterday in the Tech Stars event of Atlanta, where startups get help, as a mental health company, because because you help students get rid of their mental pressure by offloading that pressure to apply for jobs on someone else, their AI assistant. So can you first start with your immigration journey, how you felt that struggle, and your journey from India to here?
So I moved here while there is peak of tech boom, right? So, and I got a university admission in one of the prestigious universities, Carnegie Mellon. So I was coming to US with all the dreams and everything, like it's going to be super easy. I got an admission in Carnegie Mellon, but reality hit hard very soon after I landed, in like just couple of months, because I started looking for my summer internship, and then I looked for jobs. I realized that it's not cakewalk at all. I mean, what we see in India is very different from what we come here and what we experience it. And it's beyond one's imagination. You know, you'll never be like, in India, I'll be like, dekh lunga, I'm competent enough, I'm confident enough. But once you come here, the amount of mental effort, physical effort that you put into job search is tremendous. Like, one can't quantify it, is what I feel. And honestly, so I was asked to apply to hundreds of jobs with same information again and again, and it felt stupid, but there's no other option to land in jobs. All of this and every job application that I felt was a trigger for my anxiety. We, especially being immigrants, are very dependent on visas, and we have a lot of loan. We take a lot of education loan, saying that we got into good universities, and here, once we come here, we all know what happens, right? And we can't speak out on that once we, to our parents or anything. And all of this stress piles up. And at the same time, the moment you start applying to jobs, every job application that you fill is a trigger for anxiety, and I'm not joking at all. And it puts you into self-doubt if you will ever be able to make it, or if you will ever be able to land in a job. I just hate that experience, and honestly, I wouldn't even wish my enemy to go through that kind of mental stress, honestly. And that's now that we as a Scale.jobs are solving that problem, trying to offload you people from that, whatever, triggers for anxiety that I just said. And that's the reason we call ourselves as a mental health startup, because it's a lot of pain, and I'm sure many people will relate to this. Yeah,
absolutely. And the interesting part is you met your co-founder not in the US but in India. So what was the story? Can you please share?
Right. So I was working as a freelancer, and
for Scale.jobs.
Not for Scale.jobs. This is like 4 years back. And I was just started coming to Hyderabad, learning development, like being full stack developer there. And I met Leela via a mutual connection. And he was suggesting that, hey, this guy Leela is trying to build some news-based startup, and he's looking for a full stack developer. Then I was like, okay, let me quickly jump on. Let's see what is this guy doing about. Then I gave him a quotation of like 1.5 lakh for the website and all. He did my first payment for 40,000 and we vibed together and was like, okay, I mean, jump on full time. And he didn't pay me from then. But I was super happy.
Okay.
But I was super happy that, okay, I found a guy who's like really passionate like me, who's really driven towards solving problems, building tech, which that I'm really gravitated towards about. And that's where we started together in our journey with Nearby News. That was a previous startup, but it didn't go well because of COVID and stuff like that. And Leela had to move back to US. But we were still in contact with each other. So I was doing my job in India, and he was like sharing his stories about what CMU is. I can vividly remember he being super confident about, I just got into CMU, Balaji, and trust me, after 1 year, I'm going to land in a job which is going to pay me like 200K, 250K, and we'll start something again. I'll fund you from US. So those were his hopes, very high on. I was like, okay, chill, cool. And after like 1.5 year, he's coming near his graduation day, and I was like asking him, okay, what are your job trials going on? Then he was like, yeah, I'm still applying. He did his internship, it went good, but he didn't got converted into a full-time offer. Then I can see him really getting stressed out. And that's where like, he was asking me like, okay, I was time to time inquiring about him, what are you doing? Then he told, okay, I had an assistant from India who's helping me out right now because it was super stressful. I was like, okay, cool. Then he landed in a job. Like after he had an assistant, right? Within 2 months, he landed in a job. And I was like, okay, interesting. Then he started pitching, Balaji, this is a problem here. Because since I'm comfortable back in India, right? Because
Yeah, he was always ruling out. Why would that be a problem?
Exactly.
Because sitting in India,
because I never applied more than 10 jobs in India. Because if I apply to like 15, 20 jobs, I get at least 4 or 5 callbacks at least and 1 interview. So that was my path like back in India being a full stack developer, and things were good. And then whatever I saw Leela going through, still I was reluctant to jump on the idea and to work on it. Then I started calling my master's friends, my batchmates from my bachelor's. Then they were also like telling me the similar story, like, okay, this is all we are going through. And Leela did a little POC, talked to his classmates. I showed that landing page to my friends. Then they were like, yeah, this is what we need. Like, please help me. How can we utilize? So that was the first trigger. Then was like, okay, there is a real pain. Then being me, a tech guy, we started brainstorming what can we do, how can we simplify things, and that's where I am convinced, and I started jumping full time on it and started working on this.
In fact, applying to jobs in India was just one click. You go to Naukri.com or you go to Monster.com and then just click one click. All the details will be gone and you receive. Here, it's very different. And it's beyond his imagination sitting in India. Why would that be a problem? How does things work? I had to convince him like 2 months. See, I made him apply a couple of them. So imagine you doing this for like 500 to 1,000 applications. That's when I was like, okay, this sounds like a big problem. But he was also like, because we had our learnings from our past startup, right? You always have to, have some validation. You can build everything under the roof, everything under the world, but there may not be customers to take it, ideally, right? This guy was like, start building a landing page, show me some paying customers, validate the problem. That's when we'll start working seriously and stuff. So, yeah.
So before talking about your valuation, visa stuff, I really want to talk about how you are planning to compete, because you have many competitors like extensions, Chrome extensions, or there are competitors who can fill your details automatically. Now, how you are special in helping students to apply?
See, there are tools for sure. There are definitely some people, some competitors that are doing that, but that's not a foolproof solution or complete end-to-end solution. Still, the onus of applying to jobs still remains with the candidate. Probably they are decreasing job search or applications time by 100% to 80%. It's still 80%. But with our solution, we are only saying that, hey, hire a virtual assistant who will apply to jobs on your behalf. Because all the extensions or all the competitors, still the job seeker has to sit in front of the laptop and fill the whole details. It will still take you 80% of the time. But in our case, it takes 5% of the time to, select the jobs that you're interested, and your dedicated virtual assistant will apply to jobs automatically. We are actually building an AI agent that works and not breaks. That's how I would like to put it. Right now, every AI agent or the tech that we have is still something that breaks, not completely functional. So we will use virtual assistant as a service until our AI agent or anyone, generally if the whole AI agent ecosystem picks up for the job search mechanism. So that's how we differentiate from rest of the people. We are the only one who is actually applying brute force with virtual assistants and applying to jobs as many as possible.
Right. So also circling back to your analogy of how we are a mental health startup, right? So even though we build an AI agent, there'll always be a human in the loop because, as you mentioned, it is a stressful phase of everyone's life. So we call ourselves primarily as a wingman to your job search. So we want to be your co-pilot. We want to be a human wingman going through this stressful stage of your life, like listening to what are the requirements that you have, what are the new things that we have, and offering that support to however matter that we can.
Adding to that point, actually, I think that's a good segue. Yeah, competitors are there. They're giving some Chrome extensions and they're doing it. But honestly, still, like I said, you're doing it, which means your trigger for anxiety still remains the same. You're applying jobs applications for yourself. So apparently, if you don't, and your mental health plays a significant role in the quality of networking. I mean, the moment you apply for 20 jobs a day, you're mentally fatigued. You experience this fatigue, burnt out feeling that impacts the quality of networking. I can clearly see the difference for myself. If someone is handling the job applications, the quality of networking is super high. I mean, the way that I engage with the conversations, I can strategically put more mental effort, and it will be different if you had applied both up, if you're applying by yourself and networking by yourself. So yeah.
Now let's move on to someone who is doing their first startup. Like, can you explain to an engineer how funding works? Because you guys are valuated at almost $3 million, right? So let's say an investor gives you $1 million for 20% of your company, you become 5 times, you become $5 million company.
Yes.
Now, how does your company is valuated at $3 million with 6%? So it's very similar to Y Combinator. Y Combinator, they take almost 7% for giving you 500K, which was led by Sam Altman. Yeah. So can you explain how this works?
See, first of all, I mean, before even I state anything, I think valuation is a very, I would say, relative term, first of all. We have all the examples in the world where they're valued at certain billions and they fall into zero. I think that's not true, but yeah, I'll tell you how valuation works. Essentially, every round you have to increase your valuation in general, which means you need to add more and more customers, more and more revenue bringing, or some proof of concept that has to fortify your traction and everything. So if an investor invests in me 1 million at 5 million valuation at this point of time, I'm 5 million company. In the next round, I should show progress in the company that justifies 10 million valuation. And even though our equity in the company goes down for the next round, like the percentage of equity, the whole value of that equity becomes much more bigger, right? So that's how the valuation works in general. Yeah.
And one more point that I might add, because I come from a stage where I am doing startups right from my college days. Even my second year, I had my own startup, and I have situations where people offered me 5 lakhs per 51% of my company back in my college days. So because I was doing bachelor's back in India, and like they wanted to support me, but again, investors are greedy or things like that. So let's say if I have to offer a simple mental framework in order for thinking about valuations at the stage of your company, because most of the people might be watching who are like trying out stuff, trying to build products, etc. So it is as simple as during the initial days, right? Like every rupee that's coming out from another one pocket is like important. So let's say if you're taking the first check, so it'll be friends, families, and fools, the 3 Fs that the people call them, right? So it'll be mostly like, you can't justify the valuation because you are just showing them some dream saying that this is going to be this much value. So it's all about what is the other person perceiving your product that you're building or the market that you are in. So but the rule of thumb can be is like don't dilute more than 5 to 10% till you have a product and revenues. So once you have revenues and once you have users coming in, you'll automatically know how much you are doing. Let's say if you're doing 100K revenue today, you can have a rule of thumb like do it 5x. So that might be your valuation. So in early stages, it's all perceived value. So don't dilute as much as possible. Like just stay below 5 to 10%. But once you have people coming in, once you have revenues coming in, and you'll learn this automatically. But it will be like 5x or 10x of your revenues, and try to stay below like 10-15% for the seed round or Series A rounds.
Yeah. So adding on to this, don't be dumb enough to give 30% of equity on the first round or first check. It's never gonna work, or never. No VC will invest in you if you're like diluting 30% even before the pre-seed, during the pre-seed.
Yeah, so, it should be after revenue.
Yeah. So the rule of thumb is usually don't go beyond 10 or max 15 probably in your early stage. Once you have the product, it's a different ball game again. Traction comes into picture. When there are no metrics, just commit to less than 10% or 10%. I think that's where it's.
So we focus more on building the product.
Because this valuation, whatever you're, doesn't make any sense if you're not gaining traction.
Yeah.
Don't overthink or don't underthink. Yeah. So yeah, that's where.
And now you guys are at $100,000 revenue in the last 1 year, and your valuation must have increased too. So how you would define it has increased?
I would still say, we are essentially living in 2024 right now. If I have been in 2021, I would have said I'm 10 million valuation. And investors would have been coming back. It's also demand and supply. So essentially, how many VCs are ready to flock for whatever valuation you're trying to justify? So I wouldn't give the numbers right away, but definitely we would have grown by 2x or things like that right now. So that's what we figure. But yeah, if we are in 2021, I would have been doing like 10 million, 20 million valuation, raised 3-4 million money from, institutional investors.
It's also change in perspective, right? Yeah. So it was back growth at all costs. But now the perspective changed to sustainable growth.
Yeah. In fact, we are looking at ways to, the more longer we are able to bootstrap, ideally the more ways that we can stay longer in the game. And that will define, maybe we'll have more leverage later. We don't want to, burn the.
And the thing is, we are profitable today. Not super profitable, but we are able to sustain our salaries or the operations that we are running in a very good business model.
Now, in the era of startups in America, like people say there are more opportunities in India than America because like India is growing faster than America. Now, can you tell me how difficult was it to reach at a level to get funding and how important was it for you? Because currently you had applied for YCs as well. You have applied for, there are many opportunities. There is like Google for startups, Microsoft for startups. Where all you applied and how difficult was it for getting that first seed round funding?
Usually these accelerators are considered pre-seed. Usually, pre-seed seeds are just labels. Like at the end of the day, you just change it as much as you feel. It's usually very competitive, and especially with YC and Techstars, I think it's getting more and more competitive. And VCs are also being very particular about what they're looking at. Earlier, they were not as much as very particular about traction or anything. You have an idea, they used to you have some credibility to your profile or your past success. They used to do that, but now it's getting increasingly difficult. Ideally, so that's how I frame it. And how much it takes a lot of variables, I would say. See, there will be the amount of network that you have, the amount of people connections that you have. There's traction. There is your technical experience of what you can build. Like a senior director at a reputed company can always start at a very higher valuation. A college grad can start at a lower valuation, or starting up takes a little bit of takeoff time. And someone from top tier universities get automatic valuation. Reasonable valuations even without anything. So everything is how the market reacts to what you're. So you go out into the market, reach out or speak to people. You see how much of a validation you're getting or how much people are entertaining your conversations. Or sometimes you don't speak to anyone, build something, show some traction, and if VCs love it, they will invest it. So everything comes back to what's your leverage, what they are looking for and stuff. So yeah.
Maybe I can actually add a small story that will set things right good for this context, where we started applying to a lot of accelerators like YC and Techstars, right? Initially, the replies rate were not so good. And what makes them reply is, we have posted an investor update like a couple of months back after applying, and we got a very good response back. Because in the investor update, we showed that we have made a good revenue, we made progress. So investors value that, like being consistent in the game. So you have to follow with them, you have to keep networking with them, etc. And
quite often times what happens is VCs are bombarded with people coming with ideas and stuff, and mental ability will not encourage, enable you to differentiate what is a quality idea, what is not. And maybe you're in 2014, if you had an idea, people would have invested in you, but you're not there. We are 2024. 10 years from now, investors started to value your consistency in the game. You spoke couple of months back, but how consistent are you? Like, did you ghost your idea? Did you move on? And then you send an investor update where you show traction, paying customers, you're hustling. I think all of these things are, at the end of the day, investors are humans. Investors also see certain parameters. They validate all of that stuff and then they invest in gut feeling. And gut feeling comes based on the interactions. How consistent are you? How perseverant are you at the end of the day? So I think that's very important that the people you should look into ideally.
Yeah, and that's what the parameters are. Either be consistent, build a good business, or ride the wave. Build a good AI startup with a very good product, even though if you don't have a traction. Since it's an AI wave right now, you can ride the wave. It was back with crypto back then. So I was suggesting this to one of my junior.
So you guys started posting LinkedIn pay or like somewhere like your investor reports? So that can you define investor reports?
So what happens is you speak to VCs or, starting from analyst to partner, managing partner level. You speak to all kinds of people. Everyone will be like diplomatic about what you speak essentially. But the moment that you start showing traction, ideally. So for me to get traction, I need to validate with customers first. And it's humanly impossible for you to actually reach out to 100 people and speak on product and then do that. The best way is, I did bit of content marketing on LinkedIn, where I posted my struggles of, being a job seeker and how I don't want anyone else to go through the same hustle and I'm building something. It started receiving traction. And that traction, so investor updates are something that you send on an email, which shouldn't be long at all. It should only speak about 4 or 5 pointers because investor attentions are very low because they get a lot of emails. And the only way, even within those emails, they differentiate is traction. So that's my piece of advice if you're like looking to,
Yeah, maybe share the subject line that we use for investor updates.
Oh yeah, I mean, so we always start with traction update. It can be revenue. I mean, we clocked in so many customers, we clocked in revenue.
Yeah, the subject line like 30K revenue, like these many new paying customers. This is what. That's the subject line.
That should be the subject line. See, I mean, we were rookies at some point. Like our second startup, we used to describe quite a lot of this is what it's going to be vision like. You're not Sam Altman or you're not WeWork's Hugo Newman, I guess, right? So, I mean, they're 1 in 1,000 that cases work, but 99.9% of the times it's usually, show the traction or you have some very strong relations. Your location, it's very different. You work from Bangalore, Hyderabad in India or San Francisco, New York, or you're working in a small remote town, especially if you're looking for funding. But sometimes there can be ways like, I don't care, you can be Zoho or, Zerodha or these startups. They never raised funding because they were having strong market validation, which paying customers, and they never cared to. And they were making margins every time. So
Right. I looked at Zoho logo while coming from the Atlanta airport and I was feeling super proud.
So if you had to get funding in India, can you tell me how difficult it would happen versus US? Because people are trusting the Indian startup economy more because, first of all, because of Shark Tank popularity. But I personally think that in India, the funding that is happening is where the investor feel more connected to. Or, for example, half of the Shark Tank, funding companies, they simply reject their own competitors. They will not want to, build up their own competitor. Yeah. But in the US, like competitors are encouraged. If you remember 1997, Microsoft paid amount to Apple so that they can survive. Right. They had the FTA anti-competitive action so that, US made, it's just funny, like Microsoft made their own competitor on their own. So I have never seen these examples in India. So can you define the differences?
See, I can throw some perspectives. There's no right and wrong answer. VCs here are having more risk appetite here usually. The reason being, you never know who is going to be winner. There can be always 5-6 competitors. You'll always see the most successful person there. But they may have invested in 4 or 5 companies in the same space working, doing the same thing at the end of the day. Of course, within those, there might be 10-20 people there. They'll only invest in 4 people or 5 people doing the exact same thing with their own parameters. So essentially that encourages, even their competitors, you never know who is going to be winner. You never know Apple was going to be winner or, Microsoft was going to be winner. So even these days, what happens in companies is, as the companies become bigger and larger, it's hard to innovate. they have a very stable business model that they don't want to, disrupt anything of that sort. And the only way that they're going to invest is invest in smaller companies that are already disrupting. That's what happened with Instagram. That's what happened with WhatsApp. Every company in Facebook has become so big. Now it's very difficult for them to come up with a product. So why not buy a product? Because it requires a different brain and school of thought for you to disrupt at the end of the day once you become big companies. And because these days you find large tech companies in the US, everyone has a VC wing. Salesforce has their venture capital wing. Indeed has their venture capital wing.
Microsoft has
everyone. I mean, every big company now these days knows that it's not possible to innovate once you're super big. And the moment you take risks, it's going to be like shaking your foundation, which you don't want to, because it's a cash cow, like large cash cow. So they don't want to risk it. So so that's one perspective. I don't know if I answered your question, but I hope I gave some perspective around it. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, less of a difference because I don't know the US ecosystem that much well yet, but I will say in the perspective of, let's say, maybe a college grad or a senior junior professional who has an idea but who wants to jump on, but he doesn't have, he can't jump on without funding, right? He can't do because he has a job or he might have a family to do that, and that's the reason they're looking for funding might be. So in that case, I would say like stay on your job till you have some traction and get familiar with the ecosystem. Like Indian ecosystem is not that large yet. So we are in a very good perfect spot. Like there are specific funds that are dedicated toward early stage investments, like 100x VC, and there is Anthill, like even local Hyderabad's, like there is in Hyderabad Angels, there is Mumbai Angels. So these are angel funds, especially dedicated for early stage startups. Get to know familiar with them, get to maybe connect them on LinkedIn with the analyst there, show them the traction that you have achieved and what are your plans, how confident are you on your market and on your product. And I think that's a good segue for you to just get their validation and then jump on full time after you get a 1 or 2 commitments there.
And you guys were in the top 10% of YCs. Can you share that experience?
So it's okay. I mean, it's not like, I wouldn't say a big deal, but yeah, I think it always feels good. In the last cohort, we were in the top 10%. The email comes from YC saying that given that you have traction, you build some, I think that's what valued, like you build something, there's paying customers, everything. So we definitely consider you as top 10. So, and most of the times YC applications, I think more than 50 or 60%, I don't remember the number, but most of the applications are repeat applications. They fail first time, second time, and by second time or third time, you get selected for YC in general. So yeah, I think it was good, but not great for us to be in top 10 because we didn't get selected. So it's not great.
Probably next time.
Probably next time maybe.
And what helps is the grueling questions that the YC application has. Like there were very long questions that will force you to think about your idea in a like multiple directions. That because what happens when you're building stuff, right? So you get so caught up in the micro level implementations, you don't generally zoom out and think about the idea as a whole perspective. And what these applications or this even meetings with investors will force you to do is zoom out a bit and see if you're actually like steering it in the right direction or not.
It's very easy to get lost that you are and think that you are right and everyone else is wrong. May not be true all the time. So I mean we started a startup together thinking that we are always right, but never take off. And in hindsight, if we see, I think investors were right then ideally, and that's one of the reasons we are like, okay, we should. I was living in a bubble that will build consumers first, make money later. But I think it's not valid in 2024 unless you have something hugely disruptive model that can scale to any further and stuff. But I think it's very important, you guys if you are building anything, make sure that you have some monetization model or some kind of revenue model. Don't be in that bubble. I think that bubble has gone long back. The train has sailed. The ship has sailed and train has passed the platform. I don't know. But yeah.
And what is the biggest benefit of these early age startups, like early stage startups? For example, Techstars in Atlanta, there is YC. What is the biggest benefit?
I think they give wings to you. I mean, in the initial days, it's a solo journey or two co-founders doing that. But you're looking for validation from a third party who thinks there's potential in the problem, willing to invest. And it's a very lonely journey. Sometimes your mental health, just like job seeking, you always don't know if you're investing investing not money, but your effort, time, and everything on the right things. So accelerators like YC or Techstars will give you that holding hand and will give you buffer to work for the rest of the few months, so that you can build something tangible that adds value to the customer. And then the odds of success becomes much more higher. And also, I think money is the fuel at the end of the day, right? You can sit in your basement, start working, which is good. I think you should do it. But after 6 months or one year, probably you should have some money to, justify to your family what you're doing, or, take care of your needs, basic needs. I think, and the mentorships and kind of people that you get to meet because of these accelerators, because they try to network, give you warm introductions is quite a thing in investing. Like, you need to have a common person so it's an unspoken truth or secret in general in VC industry. What happens is, because there are hundreds of people trying to pitch one idea or the other, they want to make sure they meet the right people. And the only way that they figured out, I don't know if it's right or wrong or right way of doing things, but what they realized was they will only speak to have someone who has a mutual connection who introduced them. And VCs believe that crucial part of running a business is selling. And if you're not able to sell yourself, maybe you'll never be able to sell yourself to customers. So the whole point is that if you're a founder, you should find the right leads of people who will introduce to me. So essentially, you're trying to identify the right leads for getting an investment. And that's how they draw the analogy of, if you can't find me, you'll never be able to find customers, probably because founders has to hustle and find the right leads stuff. So I hope that makes sense, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now, how do you plan to use the funding? How much accountable you are? Can you please share your plan of action in the next few months? You are profitable. Mm-hmm. And in US, like 120K funding is not considered much, right? So how do you make every penny count?
See, honestly, I or Balaji come from a very conservative, being responsible for every penny that you spend. And I know 120K is not a lot, but that gives me some relief that, okay, if I don't make money for the next few months, I still have some buffer. I think that gives me that comfort. And that's one of the reasons we are like, how do I put it? Ideally,
our risk-taking appetite has grew. For example, if we want to do a campaign which might cost you like $2,000, we are very doubtful whether should we invest there or not, because we might have just got like 5K in the bank account out of our profits, and 2K is like 20% of it, and we are doubtful. Now it is giving us, okay, we have a little more buffer. Let's try to experiment to reach more job seekers and
how can we find more job seekers?
Yeah,
and I think that's.
And one more thing, how we are being accountable our funding is, so we're having this mindset where we are treating our funding amount like a bank, which VCs would prefer, but we are taking like the money that you take out is a borrowed amount.
Is a loan.
Even though that's our own money, we are treating it like a loan.
But yeah. Also, I think I'll be very honest. There are no legal repercussions if you burn. I mean, unless you go into lavish spending, honestly, as a startup, which with 120K we can't. And of course, we are not that mindset. We were never dreaming of that. It's your reputation at stake. The moment you take money from an investor and you don't, it's okay to fail. But it's not okay to, burn it and then say you failed. And investors knows the difference. And the next time you start up, the repercussion is going to be your reputation. Ideally, I think at least we consider our reputation to be the currency for your success eventually in the long run. Like what you have built, so in our past startup, there was one investor who invested in us. We were not able to repay him. But the fact that he knows that we didn't really burn money, essentially. It's a small angel, but still, I still talk to him. He advises us, but he never was like, because that's like the relationships that you build. And he knows that this guy is genuine. And he knows that he is taking a risk. So, yeah. At the end of the day, be responsible. Don't burn. You don't have to burn all the time. And I think just make sure your reputation is not affected just because you're being irresponsible. Yeah.
Yeah, but do you think you guys are scalable? Because all the applications are done by people right now. You said you will switch to AI and collect all the bits and pieces of multimodality and AI and make AI apply for students. Now, how do you plan to scale and grow in the next few years?
I think we are definitely scalable. How big, time will tell. But see, if you see even Swiggy or DoorDash is a human operations driven model at the end of the day, and we have less operations than what they have. Like we are a remote first, virtual assistant marketplace first, and with the amount of talent pool in India and with the amount of whatever we have, I think we should be pretty much scalable to any level. We are learning every day the micro interactions between a job seeker and a virtual assistant and the use cases. What are the kind of requests that job seeker gives to virtual assistant? What are the tools that we should? We are nothing but Upwork for job seekers with a very specific use case. So we are very confident we can scale, but we also don't want to get lost in this thing and miss out on AI agents. If AI agents, and so we are parallel investing ourselves, our research on AI agents. So at any point of time, we consider one job application as a proof of work, unit of work, as a unit of work. And right now it's done by virtual assistants because they are the most reliable way of filling the job application. If our AI agent becomes reliable, we'll switch to that AI agent. So yeah.
Now currently it's a wingman for our wingman basically. Yeah.
So and like आप बाइज में आप full time job भी करते हो कि सिर्फ startup करते हो?
No. I used to work, but we just quit and then we are investing full.
Full time.
Yeah, we are working on this full time. Like we're very committed to this idea and stuff. So yeah.
You guys have a very unique dynamics. One founder in India, one in the US. How challenging is that? And
yeah, I mean it's challenging and smooth. Challenging because of the time zone, but not because as a co-founders we have that chemistry figured out. Like it's already smooth. It was very smooth for us to start a company. I was like, we are always a devil's advocate for each other. We're like, the moment I said an idea, he was not like right away jumping in. So we are fundamentally to our heart, or fundamentally we always question each other at the end of the day ki ye sahi kar raha hai ya nahi kar raha hai kind of thing. And it's difficult. Of course, now he's in the US for small period of time. But whatever we did as a co-founders in the past startup, despite failing in that startup, our chemistry didn't go bad, right? And we know that we did the right things. And that helped us even to second startup, that we know we always had that. In fact, I used to speak to him on a weekly basis even after I came to US, because I used to have conversations about what are my observations here. How is it different from Indian market? What are things that work here, things that don't work? So that conversations kept rolling. We almost feel like we were in a long distance relationship. We are still probably, So yeah.
Right. From my perspective, it's an advantage for me though, because I'm the technical person, I'm the coder. You need silent time to work without anyone bothering. So we catch up in the morning, we just check the health status of our business, we see what we are building, what are the tasks to get done for the day. He goes to sleep, I goes to code. I code the entire day, I wake up, I show him the results, he gives me the feedback, okay, this is right, this is wrong. And that's how it's kind of working out in my favor now.
Yeah. Also, we built a very robust operations in India. So had we both been there, I would never understand the dynamics of the market here. Yeah. Had we both been here, we would have never built a robust operations that's working out at scale.
Right.
I think that's also a very good advantage that we have.
Right, that's the thing that was like, previously you were thinking about competitors, right? So in that question you were thinking, okay, how about a US citizen coming with the same idea? He can't have this perspective of like building this. We are in a unique position where he is coming from India, came to US, saw the perspective, he knows the growth dynamics of India and US. So we are in a very uniquely positioned space to actually start this idea and scale this up to much, much higher grounds.
And our experiences come from Balaji was working in operationally very intensive startup as a CTO.
Yeah.
So it's like logistics startup. Like you understand how dynamics work. So it became easier for us to understand when we are running a human-driven operations, at least to start with, before the agent picks up.
Right.
It becomes easier. And I was doing this a bit of logistically heavy kind of things while I was in India. But yeah.
And even now, you'll be blown away with the number of automations that we've built,
Yeah.
right? From client onboarding, quality checks, offboarding, ratings, reviews, everything is automated. Like every client gets a unique, dedicated WhatsApp group for that particular kind, and it does performance tracking automatically. It will give you reports of number of jobs that are being applied. If some application goes wrong, we give active feedback that hey, we made a mistake. We are correcting like this, and all of that is like being poured automatically in the WhatsApp group itself.
Amazing. But the biggest feedback I've seen in the comments is students say it's expensive. Can you justify the price of $200 per month to even $1,000 a month?
See, I'll be brutally honest here. We spend thousands of dollars for university degree. Average college lecture costs you $300 per hour, a one 45-minute lecture. And we are spending 80 hours of grunt work, hiring someone, training them how to fill for job applications. And now we are starting to give custom resumes, custom cover letters for every job application that we are filling. No, it's not anymore blanket resume, blanket cover letter. And we believe that we are charging them roughly around $3 per hour. I mean, this includes the tech that we are building, automations to make it a seamless thing. I understand being a student, sometimes it can do better, but if you are able to save $80 80 hours of time in 2 to 3 months, imagine that going into building personal network and personal relationships. That might even, I mean, the ROI is like 1,000. And honestly, we are not overpricing. We are running the business at very thin margins right now. Honestly, like every new customer we onboard, there is an onboarding time. There's a lot of human
personal care that is
taken care. It's a one-to-one mapping. There's a client manager. So many stakeholders. I think I really doubt it looks on face of it may look costly, right, but honestly I think that's the best we can do. And trust me, we are not making millions of rupees here, millions of dollars. Right. We are still like justifying whatever that makes us lean.
Correct. Essentially, we're a marketplace, right? We're just a middleman for the two parties. So you're essentially paying for the virtual assistant, who is probably a bachelor student in India, or it's a second job that he's doing, or a homemaker who has taken a career break and is trying to come back to workforce, wants to earn that little extra income. So this income is like going directly to those people helping ones in India.
You're not a SaaS company.
You're not a SaaS company, exactly.
And see, also I'll tell you one interesting thing. People ask me, one of the most common questions is, people ask us, is the pricing model subscription based, which means recurring every month $300, or is it one time $300? I'm like, see, I'm trying to help you get a job. If my revenue model is $300 every month, I want you to be unemployed as much as possible, as long as possible, right? We had a very transparent policy. If you don't like our services, you can cancel our services at any point of time. It's very, even at the pricing page only, we have given that. I mean, we were debating, should we have a cancellation policy? And I was like, dude, we want to be as transparent as possible, essentially. And anytime you want to cancel, there's a calculation that we do, and you can cancel it anytime at the end of the day.
Yeah, you just get charged for the credits that you use, number of jobs that
because we have to pay the virtual assistant who has been.
And trust me, there are like, let's say, 70% of our cancellations are coming from clients who already got a job.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Like they said they get a job.
We are happy.
We are still happy. I mean, I can show you mails where, congratulations, very excited for you. I mean, they got the job, and
we're excited to refund their rest of the credits.
I mean, that's what we do.
It is counterintuitive for our clients. They say they first don't reveal that they got a job. They kind of start saying that, hey, I'm kind of not satisfied. That since I am part of the way I'm taking out the operations, I was like, tell me the reason. Like I can help maybe improve our service for rest of them. Then they say that no, I just got a job, so that I don't use. So like, yeah, I'm more than happy. We're working on a common cause here. You got a job, like right the second day that you subscribe to our applications, you get the complete refund.
ये जो भी बोलो, अब ये बताओ कि how many people are actually getting a job? Like, is this mass applying working? Because you said you personalize it, right? It's not like, oh, just randomly click buttons and copy paste. No, it's personalizing it. Is it working? Can you share the success rate?
Yeah, so essentially the recruiter call rates have gone down for sure. Like there's no way, I mean, there's no denial. But still, there's no other way, and it's still working. I mean, it's still working. Essentially, I would like to say, see, I'll give you some pointers of is it really working. I'll tell our stats. So right now, 93% of the people who joined our company or who took our services are landing jobs within 3 to 6 months. It takes anywhere between 3 to 6 months. But if you ask me, am I responsible for all the 93%? No, I'm not responsible, essentially. Because the moment you come to me, you don't shut down your job search activity. What we are doing is you're optimizing your mental effort for networking and trying to get more leads for internal referrals and stuff while we take care of the number game, like applying to as many jobs as possible. Out of this 93%, we are responsible for 47% of the people who landed their jobs. Like out of this 93, 47% of them got their jobs from us just because we applied to them, and we haven't helped them in any other way, because there are many other parameters that have to follow. You have to give a good interview, you have to, prepare you for interview. All of that is there. We are responsible, or we are part of the reason they got the job in those 47%. Rest of the 44% of the people got their jobs from their personal efforts as well. It's also about the thesis of scale.jobs is there's grunt work that you do, there's productive work that you do in a job search. Your productive work will improve by significant amount if you outsource the grunt work to us, essentially. And you're optimizing your mental effort for things that are, and the thesis is that give the grunt work to us so you can focus on productive things, and that's working very well for us. And on parallel, we are responsible for people we are responsible for people joining jobs just because we got, so it's a 50-50 roughly, I would say. But in both ways, it's working.
So, and do you make sure that like someone who is applying, like sponsorship is covered? For example, someone who is like applying on F1 visa, you make sure you look for those companies which give you sponsorship. If someone has a product management degree, they're going for business analyst, product management. Do you cover all that scenarios?
Yeah, so we try to do that, but essentially we also realize, we have helped more than 300 people land in full-time jobs now. We have realized that shortlisting, it's better if the shortlisting can be done by the candidate jobs that they want to apply. There are multiple reasons for this. One is because no one has a better muscle memory than the job seeker for the kind of jobs that they want to apply. Second is also essentially what we are saying is the outcomes are much better if job seeker actually shortlists the jobs. Yeah. Or else if we can randomly, you just say product manager, I just apply to all the product manager jobs, and then probably you might get less recruiter calls anyway, the market is so bad. Right. And then you'll be like, I didn't get recruiter calls because we are randomly applying to just because there's the same title and location. Maybe you have certain experience niche. Ideally, you want to read that job description and shortlist those jobs.
Right. But we made it super easy for you to shortlist jobs from any platform of their weight, LinkedIn, Indeed, Monster, Glassdoor. So just install a Chrome extension and you'll see our button called Delegate Applying to Your Assistant. So it's as simple as just click a button on LinkedIn, the job is delegated to your assistant. Yeah. So just by spending like 5-10 minutes a day, you shortlist 30-40 jobs in a day, and rest of the thing you don't have to think about the applications anymore. And we are making sure meticulously all the visa information, all the education information, skills, etc. are perfectly filled in the application. That's our guarantee. Yeah. And each job application that we fill, you get a complete screenshot sent to your WhatsApp, dedicated WhatsApp group.
So I wouldn't say there are many indirect competitors who claim to say they filled the applications, but you never know what did they fill in the application. Right. But every job application that we fill, you'll see a complete PDF of the details that we filled in the application, so that you can use for your recruiter calls or further interviews. What did you exactly fill in the application? So that's a kind of transparency that we are maintaining.
Wonderful. Awesome. It's a pleasure talking to you all. And don't forget to check out scale.jobs/SingInUSA to get started with your job search. And thank you so much for explaining everything so easily. For anyone starting their startup, this can be a great start. Thank you so much.
Thank you.